The Homeless Billionaire, the story of a man who had only $2 left. In a bustling corner of New York City, where the lights never go out, where skyscrapers tower over the streets, and where people rush by as if they're racing against time, it's easy to get lost in the glamour. But behind that glittering facade lies another reality, a darker one, where countless forgotten souls struggle just to survive. Among them was a young man named Ethan. Ethan had come to New York with a simple dream, to build a better future. He arrived with hope in his heart, a small amount of savings in his pocket, and the belief that this city, the land of opportunity, would give him a chance. But life rarely follows the script we imagine. The job he found didn't last long. His savings slowly disappeared. And within months, Ethan found himself with nothing. No home, no family to turn to, no one who even remembered his name. Each night, he curled up in his thin jacket, trying to sleep on a cold park bench. The city that once seemed so full of promise now felt cruel and indifferent. People passed by him every day, eyes forward, pretending not to see. To them, Ethan was invisible. In his pocket, all he had left was $2 crumpled dollars. $2, not enough for a real meal, not enough to change his situation. Just two fragile pieces of paper. But instead of spending it on food, Ethan made a decision that would change his life forever. He told himself, if I use this money to eat, tomorrow I'll still be hungry. But if I use it to create something, maybe it will lead to something more. So Ethan walked into a small corner store and bought a few cheap pencils and some paper. He went to a busy street corner, sat down, and began to draw. He offered his services to strangers passing by. A portrait for just $1. Would you like one? At first, no one paid attention. Who would stop for a ragged young man with messy hair, sunken eyes, and worn-out clothes? Ethan felt the sting of rejection again and again. For a moment, he almost gave up. But then he remembered why he had come to this city, to start over, no matter how hard it was. On his very first day, he managed to draw just 2 portraits. He earned back exactly what he had spent. It wasn't much, but it was proof. Proof that if he offered value and didn't give up, someone out there was willing to give him a chance. The next day, he returned. He smiled more, he focused on making each sketch better, and little by little, people began to notice. Some were curious, some simply wanted to support him, and a few even praised his work. You've got real talent. Why are you out here on the street? That question stung, but it also gave him hope. Slowly, Ethan realized patience, persistence, and a genuine smile could open doors he never thought possible. Then one day, something extraordinary happened. While Ethan was sketching on the corner, a well-dressed man in his 50s stopped to watch. He studied Ethan for a long moment before finally sitting down and asking for a portrait. While Ethan worked, the two began to talk. The man turned out to be a businessman in the design industry. Impressed by Ethan's dedication, the man gave him advice that would change his life. You know, you don't have to sit on the street. With your talent, if you had a computer and the internet, you could sell your designs to the whole world. That sentence hit Ethan like a bolt of lightning. He had never thought about it that way before. Could his simple drawings actually become a real career? Before leaving, the man handed Ethan his business card and said, "When you're ready, call me." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. For the first time in months, he felt a spark of hope inside his chest. The very next day, he reached out to an old friend and begged to borrow a used laptop. With the few dollars he earned from street sketches, he began sitting in coffee shops with free Wi-Fi, teaching himself how to use design software. The learning curve was brutal. Ethan had never received formal training. His English was shaky, and no one wanted to hire an unknown beginner with no portfolio. But Ethan refused to quit. Night after night, while the city slept, he sat hunched over that old laptop, watching tutorials, practicing relentlessly, and failing hundreds of times before finally getting something right. Slowly, he started selling his first designs online. A logo here, a book cover there, sometimes for just a few dollars. But to Ethan, it was priceless. It was proof that his skills had value beyond the street corner. Months passed. His clients grew. His confidence grew. What started as a handful of small projects turned into steady freelance work. From sleeping on park benches, Ethan was now able to rent a tiny room. From working alone in coffee shops, he eventually moved into a small office. And then, 5 years later, Ethan stood at the head of his own digital design company, employing dozens of people. He even reconnected with the businessman who had once stopped for a sketch. Ethan looked him in the eyes and said with tears of gratitude, "If it weren't for your words that day, I wouldn't be here now." When the company finally opened its brand new headquarters, Ethan stood on stage before his employees, friends, and the press. He told his story. The story of a man who once had nothing but $2, a few pencils, and an unshakable will to keep going. And then he said something that left the entire room silent. Open quote. "Never underestimate the power of a small beginning. I once had only $2 in my pocket, and today I have a company. The greatest lesson I've learned is not how to make money, but this. No matter how broke you are, if you still have faith and the will to rise, you can always start again." Close quote. Ethan's story spread across social media, inspiring millions who were struggling with their own battles. It became a living reminder that no one remains poor forever, as long as they never give up.